Sharing a life-changing experience. That's the theme for this week's The Weekly Strategy Memo. I'm Rich Taffel, President of RLT Strategies, and each week I answer a question from a world-changing leader like you. This week's question is written from New Delhi, India. The question is, I'm an American professional who is moving back to the States. How do I go about showcasing and leveraging my experience in job interviews and among friends without coming across as arrogant and condescending? How do I go about ensuring otherwise insular Americans are interested in my experience without having to give unsolicited monologues about how life-changing my experience has been? Great question, and something I think a lot of people face both in their personal life and in their professional life. How do you toot your own horn or share something that's so exciting to you? We've all had life-changing experiences that we are so excited about, whether it's been reading a great book, being turned on by a religious experience, sobriety, having a child, a pet. It can be the gambit. Even just finding that person that you love. You want to talk and talk and talk about it, and you're really not sure how interested other people might be in hearing the story, particularly when you're in a job interview. So it is something that we all face at different times. I think my first suggestion is to realize that we think people are more concerned with us than they really are. The fact is, people don't think about us as much as we think they do. So first of all, everybody might not be as concerned about this with you as you think they are. So that's the first reality check. The second thing I'd say is get in touch with your own motives here. I think motives are key. If your goal is not to be condescending or arrogant or shaming, you probably won't be that way when you communicate. In fact, a bad communicator who has a good motive usually gets their message through. The reverse is also true. If your motive is to shame or embarrass or be condescending, even at some deep level within yourself, it'll come through, no matter how great a communicator you are. One thing to be aware of, in your language you talk about insular Americans. That language has some sort of judgment in it. Now, I'm speaking to you today from Mexico City, so I do a lot of international travel. Travel is a life-changing experience. But I don't think it means that we need to judge people who haven't or look down on others who haven't had that experience, because we all have different experiences. And so be careful of that word, insular American. That might mean that your motives might be that you're trying to make a point, and maybe that's what you're concerned about. The third thing is just a strategic clue that you could use in both interviews and in personal conversations. And that's what I call asking permission. And that's simply in the middle of a conversation, you think you might be going on too far, and you can simply say to the person you're talking to or the interviewee, or the person interviewing you, and just stop and say, would it be appropriate at this time for me to talk about my experience in India? Asking permission has a very powerful way. Most people will just say, well, sure, go ahead, I'd love to hear more about it. But by asking permission, it really shifts the energy. It's a great way in an interview where you're not really sure where the questioner is going, the questions, to simply say, would you like me to talk about this, or are you more interested in that? Just by asking that, you're now on the other person's agenda and not just your own. It's a great verbal cue to use. Now, as far as your friends, if your friends are not really interested in hearing about things that are life-changing to you, well, maybe it's time for them to think about trying to find a heart. Thanks for watching. I look forward to your questions next week.
If I only had a heart.